It appears to be that I am one of the few folks in US who was able to get a hands on DJI Osmo 360, which is a new entrant by DJI in the 360 action camera market. Of course, DJI is very famous for many other cameras, specifically drones, and also DJI Pocket, which is the one I'm using to shoot this video. There's already a fair number of reviews comparing, contrasting those two. First of all, this is not a review, it's probably closer to my initial impressions. I have been using it for several action shoots right now. Number two, it's always interesting for me that people take 360 camera and they kind of use it as a stick to walk with and have a conversation, where in reality 360 camera is fairly difficult to work with, both in terms of limitations on image processing, limitations with artificial lighting, limitations in terms of how long it takes to post-process. So if you know ahead of time what you're planning to shoot, whether it's yourself or whether it's shooting somebody else, like an interview, I really prefer most other cameras. If you're not interested in carrying serious heavy video recording equipment, Pocket 360 worked really well for me, and this is what I used for shooting this interview with Master Ken.
Master Ken here at SHOT Show 2024, sponsored this year by Crossfire Metalworks.
And this allows you to have easy preview of what you're shooting when you're shooting, reshoot, have double takes, etc. So for me, 360 is primarily the action camera, which I use to have a third-person view of myself in the situations where it's impossible for me to pay attention at what I'm shooting. So I kind of recording myself, but typically it's some other activity which requires most of my attention, whether it's electric unicycles, I use it for some tactical training. Again, where I need to focus at the task at hand, not so much on the video in fact and what I'm shooting. I also started using selfie stick with 360-degree camera underwater. This project is in the works. I'm partnering with somebody who is both much better scuba diver than myself, as well as very proficient designer and manufacturer for those aftermarket parts for underwater propulsion vehicles. So hope to talk about it more once we nail a few more pieces. So anyways, the reason why I'm saying this, for me, having a conversation with a stick while I'm walking around does not really represent my typical use case. My typical use case is action shot. So this is what I did. I took Osmo 360 for a ride up Mount Diablo here in the Bay Area. I was kind of going at my typical rate, not going too fast, not going too slow. Wanted to see and feel whether I'm getting similar image quality, similar visuals that I'm used to getting from my X5. Now, why I prefer to test it this way? Well, number one, I'm not a professional reviewer. I'm not spending nearly as much time on just purely reviewing the cameras. Number two, I noticed that when I'm actually using it in the way I intend to use it, I get slightly different results that I observe other reviewers arrive at, comment on. For instance, when X4 came out by Insta360, I could not get image quality similar to X3 out of it for my typical riding conditions. I tried different settings, I watched a lot of videos explaining how it should be set up. It just was not working. And when X5 came out, it became obvious that X5 actually is better than X3 in some respects. Similarly, there was a lot of controversy about 1-inch 360 by Insta360. I had that camera. I haven't used it too heavily because it's a little bit too heavy to hold on a small selfie stick. But there was a lot of conversation whether in low light it performs better or worse. In all of my experiences, it blew other smaller sensor 360 cameras out of the water. So it was really difficult for me to understand how somebody could arrive at conclusions so opposite from mine. As a result, I do not always trust the named reviewers. I do think they do a fair job. I'm sure they're very sincere about the feedback they provide, but somehow results are slightly different than what I observed in my specific use case. So I wanted to test it in my use case, comment on the specific use case, show you the video so you yourself can judge. So net, my overall impression is that I actually really like Osmo 360. I think image quality is noticeably better than X5. More natural coloring, fewer signs of digital processing. And digital processing is not necessarily a bad thing. Insta360 is able to squeeze out a lot of juice out of kind of fairly smaller sensor. So images look fairly good, but it loses some of this natural look. So immediately it became obvious that the way Osmo 360 processes it, images come out more natural, but at the same time it's a little bit harder to get the punchy Insta360 color out of this. Insta360 has been added for a long time. So when they roll out new camera, it comes with selfie stick. There is quick detach right now that they have. This is version 2. They come out with scuba case. They come out with basically all of the accessories I would want to use for my action shooting. DJI, on the other hand, did not come out even with a proper selfie stick. And what I mean by this, take a look at the stick. You see there is a little bit of a bend here. It's not meant to stay straight. In fact, it stays straight only because I'm really making sure it's twisted very tight, the screw that's holding it. I think this produces an artifact, and I think if you look at my video, you'll see that there's a little bit of a stitching problem near my wrist where I'm holding the camera, and I believe this is because this is not a proper 360 selfie stick. It's still a good stick. It actually feels fairly light, but I wish they would come out, and they probably will, with dedicated selfie stick for 360 camera specifically. Also, unfortunately for me, since I also do scuba diving, currently there is no scuba case for Insta360. Again, obviously I assume that it's forthcoming, it's just a matter of time, but as of today I would not be able to evaluate it. It doesn't exist. And that's a pity, because actually under the water, when you have fairly low light environment, and I dive in Pacific near San Francisco, California, lighting typically is not great, visibility is not great. So when you descend down to 45, 50, 60 feet, it's always dark, almost always dark, and low light capabilities become very relevant quicker than if you're diving in some beautiful tropical paradise. So looking forward to testing it once they come out with the case, but at this point there is no official word that they even coming out with the case. In terms of other things that I heard from other reviews, but I have not observed, some folks, in fact one reviewer specifically, mentioned that there is a fogging of the lens under some conditions. This would be very troubling if indeed this was permanent moisture trapped inside the lens. There was no way to open the battery case and ventilate this. This would be a huge problem. Now, I tried keeping it in the water for a bit, seeing if condensation forms. I used it outdoors today, both in kind of cool, foggy, windy conditions as well in sunny conditions. My unit does not have it, at least I haven't observed it yet. Now, it's possible I will, it's possible I got lucky. I'm keeping my eye on this. If indeed this is a persistent problem, a lot of users report it, this would be a significant issue and potentially would require servicing. But let's see if this is a persistent issue and how common this issue is. Me, myself, I have not observed it. I also wanted to comment on one mild thing, but kind of interesting for me, again, because I'm using those as 360 action cameras on a stick. Both DJI and Insta360 have quick release mount. So quick release mount for Osmo doesn't require special attachment. Basically it attaches directly to the camera itself. And as far as I can tell, it works very well and holds very securely. There is no lock, but unless you manually push it and unlock it, it seems to hold fairly well. I'll keep my eye on it, but it's sturdy enough, it doesn't wobble, so this seems like a good design overall. On the other hand, Insta360 If I attach camera itself to quick release, it does have a lock right here, which is great. So I'm not concerned about accidentally bumping those strips on the side and disengaging it. That said, the camera itself has a little bit of a wobble. Now, if you have special release attachment plate, which shouldn't be relevant, but you can screw that in tight and then you remove the wobble. So me, myself, with Insta360, I actually prefer to have the upper plate attached directly to the camera and really crank down, because this wobble concerns me. I definitely don't want this camera to come loose. So another aspect that comes up a lot in the reviews is the fact that in X5s the lens is replaceable. Now this is, for me, it's an important property. I cracked 3 lenses or so in crashes, so it's not a remote possibility. This is something that happens with some regularity to me. That said, I'm curious whether this play a role when it comes to quality of the lens itself. Most likely DJI knew about replaceable lenses when they were designing it. Making a lens that's high quality 180-degree view is fairly non-trivial, and precisely seating it is not trivial. So I'm curious if DJI decided to make a trade-off in terms of the imaging quality over this convenience. Otherwise, I definitely like the convenience of Insta360. For me, it's relevant. I do have a replacement lens kit just in case, because I do expect at some point, either doing off-roading or on a road or something, I could wipe out and scratch and damage the lens. Happened 3 times before. In fact, today when I went for a ride, a pedestrian for some reason decided to miss a step and fall directly in front of me, so I had to swerve to avoid them. So incidents do happen, so having ability to repair the lens yourself, I think, is very attractive, unless it actually interferes with image quality, and I'm actually on the fence. I heard this theory, it seems plausible to me. Coming from high-end photography background, I know it's non-trivial to replace lenses and glass elements within lenses in professional cameras. I'm curious, why is it so simple and easy to do it with Insta360? The other aspect that became very noticeable is difference in microphones. I do have to say that microphone that Osmo has on board works better. It's kind of noticeable right away. Actually, it's of little relevance to me, because typically when I'm riding, if I'm talking at all, I'm talking through the helmet communication system to my riding buddies. This is not commentary. If I wanted to comment something, I probably would have to have a microphone system inside my helmet anyways, or have kind of microphone attached to me. But at the same time, for those who actually do want to record the sound and ambience, etc., it does seem to do a better job, and that is pretty obvious. If I had to buy a camera today, honestly, I would be very torn. On one hand, X5 is a trusted system, no surprises guaranteed. It has all of the tools you may want to use it underwater in different sports. Software for processing it is well known. I know how to use it. It doesn't have horrible limitations that I'm aware of. So overall, it's pretty convenient. At the same time, I feel like imaging capabilities of Osmo are a little bit better. Now, it doesn't have even basic tools. As I mentioned, the selfie stick is not really a selfie stick in my mind, not for a 360 camera, it's not. It doesn't have a scuba attachment. When they have it, it's a question how well it's performed. So you have to be guessing when and whether it's going to be good. With DJI Studio, I noticed that on several occasions, the way it was framing the subject, while tracking was still good, it wasn't losing the subject, it would allow subject to go all the way to the bottom and kind of cut off lower side of my wheel or something. This is a little bit annoying because I prefer to have some of the ground. I don't like when this happens and your image gets all the way to the edge of the frame. I hope they will fix it. Maybe I'll figure out how to process it a little bit more carefully so this doesn't happen. But overall, even Studio, I found it fairly mature for first release of the product. So overall, very promising camera. A bit too early maybe to recommend it, but let's see how well it does in other use cases, how quickly they will be releasing different accessories to it.
The script from my old ways. Look up the switch, I'm in flow state. Commas, I'm going through grown pains. I wasn't used to being so gross. I tighten the threads at a crochet. I pick up the cushion, some OJ. The last tape I dropped was a Rowway. It's yellow, I swear it's a Coldplay. Viva la vida, I'm swiping the visa. We working, I'm taking off no days. We throwing shots like a gun range. So we finally make it to front page. A head full of dreams, some breath for the schemes. A heart that been feeling like it's a machine. I'm pushing extreme, cause I'd rather die on my feet than live on my knees. Yeah, stay on my P's, get hate on my body like it's a disease. I'm walking off after we taking the lead. She call me Big Poppy, I'm David Ortiz. It's what you've been waiting to see. There's moments where you gotta take it or leave. And I'm taking everything, some call it greed, but I call it living out what you believe. And I've been believing since dawn, was seeing the vision board. Racing with fate all my life, a collision course. Fighting with snakes, I'm a lion like Gryffindor. I'll be asking permission for this type of shit that we breaking tradition for. Fearing the mission, I'm killing the victim, I'm dying for all that I'm living for. Flipping the script from my old ways. Look up the switch, I'm in flow state. Commas, I'm going through grown pains. I wasn't used to being so gross. I tighten the threads at a crochet. I pick up the cushion, some OJ. The last tape I dropped was a Rowway. It's yellow, I swear it's a Coldplay. Viva la vida, I'm swiping the visa. We working, I'm taking off no days. We throwing shots like a gun range. So we finally make it to front page. A head full of dreams, some breath for the schemes. A heart that been feeling like it's a machine. I'm pushing extreme, cause I'd rather die on my feet than live on my knees. Yeah.
Zresztą 11 minut, 24.